So much. Let's get more on Chrysler, the bankruptcy and the future, or the expected bankruptcy, I should say, and the future of the American automakers. For that, let's bring in Congressman Gary Peters, Democrat from the state of Michigan, joining us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman Peters, great to have you back with us. You and I talked earlier this week, and you said bankruptcy should be Chrysler's last resort. So are you not happy about where this looks like it's headed?
Now, certainly I'm very disappointed that this is where it's heading, and I'm very disappointed that I really believe that this could have been avoided. We did have the major banks step forward. They did accept an offer that was put forward as a reasonable offer for them and for their shareholders. But you now have a handful of hedge funds and non-bank investment firms that have stood in the way, have said we're not going to accept that deal, even though these large banks have accepted it as a fair deal. It's a deal above the market value of the debt. It's a deal above what the likely liquidation value would be. And yet these hedge funds and non-bank investment firms have said, no, we're not going to do it. And I think it's extremely unfortunate that just a handful of these firms are standing in the way. And as a result of now, we're going into a bankruptcy, which hopefully will be quicker because of the agreements with the UAW.
Right.
Hopefully it'll be less uncertain because of the agreement with the majority of the creditors. But it's still a bankruptcy, and it could have been avoided.
Congressman Peters, Chrysler's headquarters is in your district. What are the risks? What are you worried about having Chrysler go into bankruptcy as it's expected here?
Well, what we're always worried about, and we've been worried about from day one, is the loss of jobs. We cannot afford to lose any more jobs, especially in Michigan. As you know, we lead the country in unemployment now, and the recent announcement of General Motors and job cuts, this would be devastating if we continue to see that. So the number one focus has to be on preserving as many jobs as possible, keep these companies viable as the economy recovers so that they will ramp up production at that time. And so bankruptcy is always an uncertain thing, and why it should be avoided, and it could have been avoided if it wasn't for this handful of hedge funds that we refuse to cooperate, even in the face of the major banks stepping forward and saying, this is a good deal for our shareholders, this is a good deal for the country, we're going to move forward with it.
Congressman Peters, it's Mark Crumpton with Carroll. Earlier today, we had on a corporate bankruptcy attorney and an analyst, Richard Tilton of Covenant Review. He said this was all brought about because of 20 years of mismanagement at Chrysler. Was wondering if I might get your reaction to that.
Well, certainly, there have been mistakes in the past of the auto industry, but if you look at the problems that we're at right now, what has really brought this tsunami on the auto industry was the fact that we're in a credit crisis. People are not buying automobiles, so sales are down dramatically, and that's not just with Chrysler. It's not just with General Motors. You're seeing the same thing with Honda and Nissan and Toyota. Sales have just collapsed across this country, and when you have a very high capital-intensive industry like the auto industry, it is very difficult to operate when sales collapse. So ultimately, we've got to try to stimulate sales. We've got to sell automobiles. That's how you get out of a recession. You don't get out of a recession by laying people off. You get out of a recession by selling automobiles, and on the demand side, and that's why I've supported things like the Cash for Clunkers from Representative Sutton. I'll be introducing a bill for tax credits to buy automobiles. We've got to push auto sales, and that will permeate through the entire economy and not be good just for the auto industry, but for the entire country as well.
Congressman Peters, got about 45 seconds left here. What kind of Chrysler do you think will emerge from bankruptcy? Will it be a company that's still a large employer in your state?
I believe, well, I'm still very hopeful that we will have a short bankruptcy and one that's not as unpredictable as could happen, that we'll get through this very quickly. There's an incredible product lineup at Chrysler. In fact, some of their electric vehicles that I've had the opportunity to see are just incredible vehicles. Chrysler will be a leader in the auto industry going forward. We just got to get through this very rough period right now, but the product mix is there, from the Jeep line to the minivans to the new electric vehicles. Chrysler will be a successful company if we get through this rough time right now.
All right, Congressman Peters, great to get you back with us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Congressman Gary Peters, everybody.